Hello, friends. Good afternoon. Anna Zachary here, a basic girl with a little extra. I am here as every Thursday, and this month we're talking about mental health awareness. So, if you haven't checked out the last couple of weeks, I strongly recommend that you take a look to those. And my guests have been golden, like they have sharing a lot of information that can help you or somebody that you love or somebody that you know that might be struggling with that. Last week we talked with Cheryl Wolf. She is a wellness coach and she gave us a lot of good information. But this week I am super excited. For my guest. Let me say hi. Hey, Marcus, thank you so much for being here. You did a great stream this afternoon. I loved it. I'm in Caroline, but guess what? This is my last week. Next week, I'm going to be able to sit down and really enjoy your show because school is going to be over. Ellie, thank you so much for being here too. So glad you're here today. Um, my guest, it's a casuality, if you will, that we met. It was very casual, our encounter, but I'm a woman of faith and I believe that God orchestrated that we met. We haven't had a lot of personal interaction, but and he might not fully know this, but I've learned so much about him in a personal way that has helped me strengthen my faith, believe it or not. And also, most of you know that I am married to a mortgage guy, but I have learned more from Mark in the last couple of months than my husband because he's sharing. He has a podcast that you guys have to listen to it. Also, if you want to learn anything about mortgage and real estate, I mean, you're gonna learn a lot. But with any further ado, I'm going to introduce you to my new friend, hopefully for a long time, Mark Zachary. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh
Thank you.
my gosh, I'm so glad that you asked, and it was definitely a God thing that we met because we were sitting within feet of each other, and then got to talking about these podcasts, and you have been inspirational to me to actually start my own podcast. I'd been doing a different podcast, a real estate a podcast that you were mentioning. But I went ahead and started my podcast, personal and a different business one. So thank you, and it has been an honor to get to know you, and I'm looking forward to uh, being a guest here and offering anything that I can offer that may help somebody out.
Thank you so much. Well, I'm going to put the name here. This is Mark's podcast, and you can find it in Spotify. Is it in Apple too? I think it's on
It's
Apple.
not an Apple
Apple?
yet. It's
Okay.
but it's in everything else. I believe so. Google,
Okay.
Amazon,
Yeah.
iHeartRadio, all that stuff.
Yes, and it's amazing. How many episodes do you have already? Do you know?
I think there's 6 or 7 on there
Yeah.
now, and
Okay.
I kind of fell off the boat, and I've got to get going again. But we'll
Awesome.
get that we'll get the all the interviews set up because man, there's been some great people that I've met the last couple.
Yes, and one of my friends here in the chat, he's watching us from the other side of the world. It's like 3 o'clock in the morning for him, and
Oh my
he's
gosh!
such a great friend. But he's a content creator too, so he totally understands what we're talking about. Ellie does
Yeah,
too. She. We have like seasons, right? That sometimes
yeah.
just life happens and we fall off the wagon. But Marcus is so great. Also, you want to go check out his channel because he has a lot of great information there for podcasters and content creator that might help you. But the main reason why I wanted to brought you in today, it's because, like I mentioned, we are talking about mental health for this month of May. And you and I met at the doctor's office. Well, it's not a doctor's office, really, right?
Yeah,
It's
yeah. The
therapy.
rehab area, therapy. Yeah.
Yes, I was there because I had a surgery in my hand, And I remember the day that we met was my first time there, and I was very nervous because I didn't know what to expect. I was
Yeah,
pretty scared, like, oh my gosh, this is gonna hurt, and I was
yeah.
very nervous. But you went in like 2 seconds before me, and I saw you having great conversation and laughing and chit chatting with the therapist, and it's so cool. And I'm like, oh, okay,
Yeah,
this is gonna be fun. It's gonna be okay. So that's how we met. But would you share with us a little bit about your experience? Why were you there?
yeah. I kind of feel like I may be dating myself, but that's okay. But uh, I kind of feel like Norm on Cheers up there because everybody knows my name, and I know everybody's name. I've been going there for months and months, and they are a great group of people. So it's been a pleasure getting to know all of the therapists there, and they're just a super organization. But the reason I was there is because back on September 25th of 2021, I had a massive stroke, and I wasn't sure I was going to make it. I was watching TV, and you'll have to tell me. We don't want this much depth of the story that you can cut me off, and we can shave off some details, but.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. But your story is so great that I'm just gonna let you go.
Okay. Well, I was sitting in my room watching TV, and I had worked all morning to make me a man cave in the room just down the hall here, and I just sat down to watch the rest of the A&M game because I got my four TVs up on the wall, and man, I was really excited about being able to utilize that for the football season. And all of a sudden I reached over, or I thought I reached over to get my drink, and my arm wouldn't move, and I originally thought, man, it must be caught in the chair or something, and so I tried to do it again, and it wouldn't move, and so I thought, wow, what's going on? This can't be good. And so I just finished texting my wife and my brother about 5 minutes before, but my phone was down to like 5% on the battery. So I plugged it in across the hall or across the room, probably 10, 15 feet. It's a pretty big TV room, and so I tried to get up and go get my phone because I figured something really bad was going on. Well, when I tried to get up, my right leg was dead, and so I fell on the floor, and so I was pulling myself across the floor to get to my phone. And the problem was when I would pull with my left hand, it would pull my right arm underneath me. So I would pull that across the floor, and then I'd pull my arm out to get it out from under me so I could pull some more. And so I crawled all the way over, or pulled myself all the way over to the phone, and I dialed 911, and they picked right up, and it was before I lost my speech. So if I would have waited much longer, I wouldn't have been able to let them know that hey, I'm having a stroke, and I wouldn't have been able to tell them where I was, and but I was able to talk and tell them I'm upstairs, the door's locked, so you're gonna have to break the doors down, and my dogs are in and all that, and so they hung up and they said, "We got somebody coming your way." And so then I had to crawl back to where I started from, and then on back another 10 feet to get over by the stairs. And so that took, I don't know, several minutes to again pulling along the carpet, then pulling my arm out, and pulling on the carpet and pulling my arm out, and so I finally got to the banister there, and just leaned up against the banister so I could see the front door and see when they got there. so I could, holler at them. Well, so waited there a few minutes, and they got there super fast, and he was knocking on the door and ringing the doorbell, and I was yelling down there, "Hey, break it! It's locked! Don't, there's a glass there, and he could break that." And I guess he couldn't hear me, and so I was sitting there and just wondering how can I get him in here. So because my dogs would not leave my side, that was so crazy. My dogs always bark when somebody's at the door, but they would not leave my side. They were licking on me, and you know they knew something was up with Dad. So anyway, I looked down there and I saw the EMS guy turn around and walk away, and that was probably, and you'll have to forgive me, I may get a little emotional. Um, that was probably the toughest thing because I thought this is where it's going to end for me. And I just knew that he thought that he was in at the wrong house. And so I just leaned more up against the banister and was sitting there, wow, thinking, man, my family's gonna, find me here because I was home alone. My wife was in Austin, and my oldest daughter was on a cruise, and my youngest daughter was at her apartment. And so anyway, I just thought, well, this is where they're gonna find me. And so we always keep the doors locked. But my dog had been sick, and that we were having to take her out on the leash to go to the restroom. And for some reason, that back door was left unlocked, and I was leaning against the banister, and I felt a touch on my shoulder. He said, "Sir, I got you." And he had come around the back door and come around the fence, got through the fence, and came in the back. And they came up the back stairs because we had a stairway that comes up the front and then comes up the back. And he touched my shoulder and he said, "Sir, I got you. We're gonna get you to the hospital." And so he I guess the other two actually came in behind him, and so they put me in a chair, took me downstairs, and took me off to the hospital, and we went to Memorial Hospital. And the way my wife found out what was going on, and my daughter, was our neighbor saw the ambulance outside, and she called my wife and said, "Hey, is everything
Wow.
okay?" And she said, "Yeah, I'm just here in Austin." She goes, "No, somebody is. The ambulance is at your house, and it looks like they're carrying Mark out, and it looks like he's had a stroke."
Mm.
And so she called Emily right then, and then Mom told Emily to get to the hospital and meet Mark, meet me at the hospital. And so we found out where we were going, Memorial Hermann. They said that was the best stroke hospital in the city. And so I remember the long ride, and then when I got out, my daughter
Wow.
was the first one I saw, and she held my hand and stayed with me
And I
during the
want to
ER.
jump in there, Mark, because as you're telling the story, I just see Jesus coming in so many times. And
Yeah,
I know this story, and I want to point out like that little thing about you always locking your back door, and for some strange reason, you
we
did
didn't do
not
it.
lock that door that night,
Yeah,
right? And then
miracle.
how your daughter got to the hospital, and we're talking COVID times, right? That
Yeah,
when
yeah,
they couldn't get in, and
right.
she was able to get into the hospital. She was able to be with you, like all these little things, and the dogs. I mean, because I have a dog that will do that too, like get all crazy
Yeah,
every time he sees a shadow. He gets
yeah,
all crazy, but they were there with you. And I know, I think that animals sense when there's something wrong.
yeah.
And
I agree.
but that was very deep for them to be there for you, not to feel completely alone, but I can imagine how scary the situation was for all of you, not just for you, but your wife being, for my friends that are not here in Houston, Austin is about 2 hours,
Yeah,
give and
two
take.
hours. Yeah.
And
Yeah, it was
she,
she was in actually in McDade, which is just outside of Austin. So she was about an hour and 45 minutes away,
yeah,
and
wow.
she got there as soon as because she was there taking care of her mom's husband
Mm,
and her stepdad because he was going through cancer treatment. So
hmm.
it was just a crazy time. But yeah, having Emily there that day helped me tremendously. I never, after I got picked up by the EMS, I never felt like I was not going to make it after they got me. But
Hmm.
Emily told me about a year later. She said, "Dad, the doctors came out and told me uh, after the fact that, hey, I'm not sure your dad is going to make it."
Wow.
And I never knew that until the 1 year anniversary of the stroke. And,
Hmm.
by this time, I couldn't talk, I couldn't communicate. And so it just was, it was, there
Yeah,
was a bunch of miracles involved in this whole thing. And, I
absolutely.
was in the hospital, intensive care for 4 or 5 days because normally, massive stroke victims, um, they don't want you to go to sleep because a lot of times you go to sleep and you don't wake up.
Oh, wow.
And they said that they kept me in ICU for about 4 or 5 days just to make sure I was going to make it. And then we went to critical care for another week, and then I was in uh, rehab at Tier Memorial, which is another phenomenal place
Hmm.
where I was, it is in-house therapy and rehab for another 4 weeks, and so I was gone from my house for about 6 weeks after that
Wow.
day, and boy, it was tiring and thinking, wow, am I ever going to talk again? But less than a year later, we started our first podcast, which is the Inside Houston Real Estate Podcast.
Hmm.
And had you told me that, September 26th or 27th, a couple of days after my stroke, if you would have told me, Mark, you'll be, recording your first podcast less than a year later, I would have said, you're out of your mind. You don't have a clue what you're talking about. Because my daughter played a recording, because I remember I said my dog was sick. We had an appointment for my dog a couple of days later, and I remembered that we needed to take her to the vet, and so I tried to call Katie and let her know, my oldest daughter, because she'd gotten back by then,
Hmm.
um, to remind her to take Scout to the vet. And no more could understand what I was saying than a man on the moon. And she saved that recording for me, and we listen to it every now and then just to see how
Yeah.
far I've come.
Improvement. Yeah.
Yeah, and I hope I don't sound slurred here because it's still a work in progress. But at least I've got 3 podcasts now that I do, so I can.
Yes. And you know, friends, the podcast about real estate that you do with your friends. Oh
Yes.
my gosh, I'm telling you, I've learned so much about taking care of my house, about what it
Uh,
means, title, and
yeah.
like all these terms that it's really, really good. And about Tumble, you had a interview
Yeah.
with the mayor, right? Or
The chamber
the chamber,
president.
yes.
Yeah.
And it was so good, and I learned so much. And it cracks me up because I haven't identified who the gentleman is, because I know there's three of you, but there's one of y'all, and it's not you, but it's one of the other two that laughs. Oh my gosh, his laugh is so funny.
Well, I would think that that is probably Ron Wilshire.
Oh my
He is
gosh.
a hoot, man. We do have
Yeah.
a lot of fun doing that,
It
and
is such a fun
I think
podcast.
me and Craig laugh at him more than we laugh at what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So
But it's really
yeah,
good. So I put that in the chat, friends, if you want to check that one out too. And
yeah,
obviously, the one about if you have hard time saying it, I have hard time saying it, and because my first language is Spanish, it's not because I have,
yeah,
but a stroke of good misfortunes, and I love the name. And in this, in your podcast, you're interviewing the people that help you in getting where you are right now, right? Like your
yeah.
therapist, nurses, a lot of staff that it's involved in a recuperation of one person. I mean, if you have that many people, I just think about like all the people that go to the hospital, to the emergency room. Like we just think like, oh, the nurse that just comes and takes your blood pressure, that's it, and the doctor. But there is a whole
Oh,
team behind every little detail and how important it's each one of them. Like the therapist that you had as a guest that was talking about the process of teaching you how to eat again. I was
yeah,
That was like, what? Like I
yeah.
had never even thought about that. And she talks about how the actual food digests through your butt, and I'm like, wait, what? I don't think they taught me that in school.
It
Like,
is unbelievable. I mean, the nutritionists that are involved, and they know what you can eat and what you can't eat, the juices you can have and what you can't have. They know how much to thicken up your liquids so you don't choke to death. Because when I had the stroke, it affected the right side, and it affected my throat. Well, what happens is there's a muscle in there that will close and open based on what you're doing. Well, it had been damaged so much that it just stayed open. Anything that I drank or ate was going straight to my lungs. And
mm-hmm.
so I could have sat there and drowned it in a
Oh
water
my
cup of
gosh.
water. And so they had to put a peg tube to feed me for 6 weeks. And
Wow.
I would use the peg tube for medicine, for liquids, for any of that. And as I learned how to, swallow again, they would give me more and more uh, liquids. But man, the exercises they have you doing that retrains that muscle. I wish I could remember what's called, but it's the flap that opens in
Mm-hmm.
your throat that
Mm-hmm.
allows the the
Food.
food and
Mm-hmm.
water to go where it needs to go and not go into your lungs. And
Mm-hmm.
but they have you doing these crazy drills, blowing in these things that will strengthen your throat and biting on your tongue
Wow.
and swallowing, and you do that all day and every day to make your muscles stronger. And but yeah, you're right that the teams that they have in place that works on occupational therapy and physical
Mm-hmm.
therapy, because they're two different things, and then
Right.
speech therapy, because occupational therapy is more of the upper body. It's
Right. I
working
didn't know that.
your arms and your thumbs and your fingers, and then the speech therapy is the talking and the swallowing and the this the first speech therapist that I had, she said, Mark, she goes, it's like your entire vocabulary and your thoughts have been, they were up on a shelf in a neat order, you knew where they were, and they have all been shaken
Oh
and
my gosh.
thrown all over the floor.
Oh
And
my
what you're going
gosh.
to have to do is figure out where these things, where the puzzles
Belong.
go back on
Mm.
that shelf, and you're going to have to just keep saying some things over and over just so you can be, I don't know, where you could hear me and understand me. And she
Yeah.
goes, but everything you knew, everything you said has been thrown on that floor, and you got to pick it back up and put it where it needs to go.
Wow, that's super intense, super intense. And here comes the topic of today. Like after all this, I imagine that there would have been times where you were frustrated and you're like, I'm done. I don't want to do this. I am angry. I am frustrated. I am sad. Like all the feelings, I would think.
Yeah.
How did you make a comeback to say, okay, let me just, come back again? Like, was it, what were the elements? Because I am sure there was several things that help you to find that strength to come back.
Well, we talked about a God thing just meeting. It's been a God thing with, I think, from day one, with the people that He put in my path to help me along the way. I mean, there's been miracle after miracle, but you're right. I mean, there are plenty of times, and it's been more than once that you're like, man, is this as good as it's going to get? And why me? And you get mad, and you think, man, this is not the way I intended my life to work out, because I was only 54 when it happened. I turned 56 tomorrow, by the way. So I'm happy to be celebrating another birthday. But it you're right. There are some really tough times, but I have a great family, and I was wanting to be a granddad one of these days, and I kept fighting for that. And I just became a granddad last Friday. So my first grandson is here. Luke is his name, and so I had a lot to fight for. Um, but to go from where I was to um, where I'm at today, I see really slow and sometimes no improvement at all. And then my therapists are like, "Oh my gosh, Mark, do you see where you started and where you're at today?" So it's good. I had Julie take some pictures along the way, and just so I could look back and see how far I had come. But man, they had me in some instruments that helped me walk, and I would move one leg, and they'd move the other one for me, and then we have these machines that we had move my arms, and when I first got there, I couldn't even move my thumb, and now I can move my thumb. I can hold stuff with my right hand. But there are some dark days where you're just like, I don't know if I can do this, and so I just got to keep. I think that's what helps is when I can look back to see how far I've come, and so that really helps me out a lot. And I spoke at my church years ago, and maybe I spoke at my church because I knew I would need that what I was saying down the road. But it was about when the children of Israel were crossing the on dry ground. And he said, I forgot, I guess Moses went in and said, pick up a stone and carry it to the other side,
Hmm.
so you have a memento of what
What you went
God
through.
has done for you.
Hmm.
And so, I thought, we picked up a lot of stones along our way. And I think my kids and my grandkids will be able to look back and think, wow, look how far Mark came when
Hmm.
he's crossing his Jordan River. And so I hope I'm able to uh, motivate and inspire them as much as possible,
Yeah.
without complaining a lot.
Yes, and I think it's a huge thing, right? Like I'm not a grandma yet. My oldest daughter just got married 2 years ago, and I all my friends are in that zone where they're becoming
Yeah,
grandparents, and they tell me like how unbelievable feeling that is, and
it's great.
Thank you for sharing your pictures on Facebook because every time I look at him, I'm like, oh my gosh. And he's the cutest thing, like the cutest thing. So I can imagine how your world has been rocked by that little baby because he's
Yeah,
beautiful. And,
it is.
you know, I see how God has worked in your life and I see how faithful your family is because that's something that we can see, right? So my ministry, I have this tagline of like, we are here to love Jesus, obey Jesus, and tell everyone about him. And sometimes I found that when we get really churchy, it's very hard to tell others about Jesus. It's a lot easier to tell them with our behavior and our experiences that there is a God and there's Jesus that came down and saved us. And he's
Yeah,
still, advocating for our lives. And I can see it. Your life is a clear example to me of a faithful God and a living Jesus. Um, and it keeps working out. And one of the things that the Bible verses that I go to often is that the way that you are obedient to God, the more um, of his mercy and grace and blessings you will see, right? So
yeah,
in those moments that you were like, I just want to give up and I'm tired and I'm doing this, I could see that very faithful wife of yours praying for you and a whole community around you, lifting
yeah,
you in prayer, even when you probably wouldn't believe in that there was a God. Or I think that when things um, bad things happen to us, we question God, right? And when the good things happen to us, we forget to thank Him. And it's like, okay, this is you. And sometimes we even take the credit of the good
yeah.
things. So again, your podcast, the stroke of good, of
Good
good.
fortune. There's been a lot of bad, but there's been a lot of good in this whole situation, and this prayer thing. And when I went back to my neurologist about 4 months after the fact, he was looking through some of the reports, and he said, "Oh, I see your kidneys started shutting down at this point," and they can look at all these tests and see what's going on. And that was the first time I'd heard that, and I
Mm,
just believe that that is about the time, that they started shutting down. But that is about the time the word get out that Mark needs
mm,
prayer, and
mhm.
we had people all over the city, all over the state and the country, praying for me. And man, it's I think the one of the things that I enjoyed about being in rehab while I was in house rehab living there,
Uh-huh.
but you really got to see um, a lot of very difficult situations, and mine was difficult, but I could see kids that were learning to walk without legs,
Wow.
and like, man, I really don't have it that bad. If
Mm,
this is the way I have to live my life, that's okay. But it's had some dark times, like I said, but I don't have to walk on prosthetic legs
yeah.
for my entire life. I
The
saw this
rest
one
of you.
kid
Mhm.
that his name was Zach, and he was 5 or 6 years old. He had both legs amputated just
Oh
above
my
his
goodness.
knees, and so he was learning how to walk on these prosthetics, and that would be a lifelong deal with him. I'm 54. I may have 45 years left. I don't know what that number is, but he has a whole lifetime, and
Mm,
I think it kept a lot of things in perspective. Uh, is Man, this is bad, but I'm not bad as that guy. There
yeah.
was a guy right next door to me that had the stroke, same stroke, uh, 3 months before, and I was way down the road further than him because he didn't get in as fast. He didn't
Mm,
get the care as fast as I got, and
mhm.
today he still is not back to work. and I went back to work in January of 2022, 4 months after the fact.
Wow. What a blessing. Wow.
Yeah, it
That
was
is
great.
incredible. Yeah. Well, this has been a super amazing topic and a great chat. I know you're a busy grandpa. Have you picked your grandfather's name yet?
I'm granddad.
Okay, okay.
I am granddad. That was my granddad's name, and so I thought I'm going to take over his name since he's no longer
Good,
here. I'm going to
good.
take over
So
his.
it's not the one that they call you on the podcast, right?
No, that's Ron and Craig messing with me, calling me Peapod. And, so
Yeah.
that was just something they threw out, and I said I am not going to be called Peapod.
Right. Well, just
Yeah,
keep that podcast away from Luke so he doesn't hear
yeah,
it.
yeah,
He
no,
might pick it up.
yeah,
My daughter says that I'm not allowed to choose my grandma name. That her kids are going to pick the name, and I'm like, okay, well, we'll see about that.
yeah,
If I like
right.
it or not. But for all my guests, I usually have. I want to try this thing for the very first time, so forgive me if my technology is not all out there, but I like to do 5 rapid fire questions where you have like 2 3 seconds to answer a question, just for
Okay,
fun. Are you up for that?
I'm ready to go.
Okay, let me add it here and we'll see, because this thing is gonna pick the questions for us.
Wow, you've gotten all fancy on me.
Right. Let's see. What is the weirdest thing you've ever eaten?
Oh man, I think it's I've gotten to like a sushi now because my taste buds have been affected so much. So I never ate before, but now I eat that. And I thought that was weird
Right.
years ago.
Got it. Let's see.
I'm gonna have you show me how to do this stuff.
Oh,
This is
yeah, it's fun. It's fun. And it's free too.
yeah,
Have you ever gotten a ticket? Like a
yeah,
traffic ticket?
yeah.
Oh,
It's
no, Mark.
yeah,
How many
speeding.
have you gotten?
Oh, I don't know, but it's been probably 30 years since I got my last one. So I
Oh,
guess
okay.
yeah,
So
it was
that's
in college and high school speeding
okay. Well,
in
yeah,
my
that's usually.
Z28.
All right, let's see. I should have put some mortgage questions in there just to quiz you. What?
Oh, what is your favorite Bible verse? I think
Mhm.
it's the story of the children of Israel gathering their stones. So
Yeah,
that's more than a verse; it's a story to me.
story, but it's
Uh,
beautiful. I love it too. Actually
yeah.
did a chapel on that story too. It's
Oh, you did.
beautiful. Yeah, and we had just come back from Colorado, and in the we went hiking and we saw a lot of those stones, and then I came home and Googled it and I saw that it was because to let the next hikers that it was safe to pass. And I'm like,
Is that
oh,
right?
I see the relationship right there with the Bible story. So that was pretty
Neat.
cool. Yeah. Yeah, that was pretty cool. But it's a good reminder like, okay, you're coming from back there, right? So, okay, the next one.
Uh,
What were you?
I can't.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's
I
a
don't
good
like
one.
hearing that, and because I don't know. I think you can if you put your mind to
Oh my gosh. Have you talked to my husband?
it. Yeah,
He,
I need to be reminded of that every now and then, and
yeah.
so that was a good question. I appreciate that one coming up because sometimes you get to the point you're like, wow, can I do this? Yeah,
Yes.
I can.
Yeah. It's a stopper.
Yeah. When was the
Mhm.
last time you shared your faith? Um, I don't go around doing a lot of preaching or anything like that, and witnessing. I try to let my life uh, be be my witness, and sometimes that's not the best witness that that can could be, because I do get down from time to time. But I have a lot of people look at me and say, "Man, how do you stay so positive?" And so I get to share the fact that
Yeah.
you know I was saved. I mean, it was God that saved me
Yeah.
from the stroke. We've had
Absolutely.
people pray for me right there in the lobby of the rehab place that you and I met. I will
Mm-hmm.
talk to them about
Wow.
my story, and they would say, "Well, can you pray for me, and
Yeah.
can I pray for you?" And it's opened up some different avenues to be able to
In
do that.
conversations. And there's a saying out there that sometimes you are the only Bible that some people will read. And
Yeah.
again, with your story, I think that you do a fantastic job of sharing your faith. Okay, here comes the last one. I hope it's a good
Okay.
one. Have you ever met a celebrity besides me?
Well, this one wasn't as big as you, but or as popular. That big is not a good word. I need to. I wasn't. Yes, I can answer that question. That yes, I have. I was out in Las Vegas when I was a sophomore in high school, and I was swimming at our hotel, and Dr. Bombay was sitting right across the way, and I said, "Is that Dr. Bombay?" And he was on Bewitched. He was on Hogan's
Mm.
Heroes, and several of those. Beverly Hillbillies, things like that. And so I went over there and I said, "Are you Dr. Bombay?" And he goes, "No, I'm Bernard Fox. I play Dr. Bombay." So
Oh,
I got to sit there by the pool and just visit with him. He was doing a show out in Vegas at the time, and so that was a neat thing. And every time I see him on TV now, I make sure the girls remember that I swam up to him and we
with him.
talked for probably an hour.
That's
We
awesome.
were basically best friends after that.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. Well,
Yeah.
Mark, I just want to thank you so, so much for spending some time with us. Friends, if you're watching the replay, let me know in the comments. I also have on the show notes the links and information where you can find Mark if you need a mortgage. Just don't tell my husband. And check out his podcast, both of them. They're super helpful. They're so much fun, and you will learn a lot. And I mean, you're doing a great, great job by sharing your story with a lot of people, because we don't know that we could be it could happen to any of us, and it's very helpful information to know. And before I let you go, because tomorrow is your birthday, and because we want to celebrate little Luke, I have something for you.
Oh boy. Oh,
Confetti!
there. That's so cool. Okay, you need to hold a podcasting class on how you're doing all these, you know,
Yeah,
stuff. That's
this
very
little
pretty.
things. Well, it took me a little bit, but I think I'm getting there. So yeah, whenever you want to, we can sit down and I'll show you all this free stuff because I like
Yeah,
free stuff.
I do too. I do too.
Well,
I
again,
appreciate you having me on. I think you've helped me get out of a little funk with what's been going on because you do get tired and but I appreciate you having me on. It's been very nice to visit with you again, and I'm kind of upset that you got better and you no longer have to go up to the rehab place or there.
yes.
So I miss seeing you, and it was such a
Yeah.
great day when I got
It's
to
a
meet
good
you.
chat, and I missed it too, because it really felt like I was going to a spa, and they
Yeah,
treat you so well. But yeah, thank God, I got a lot better, and they dismiss me, and I'm like, okay, fine, you don't want to hear anymore. Uh, but I did. I met another gentleman one time that I went a different time, and he also shared with me some incredible, crazy story about his life. And I couldn't say goodbye and get his information there, but I was blown away. I'll tell you about it later. But it was like, where is these people coming from with these amazing stories?
Yeah, you just
So
never know what people are going through or
yeah,
what they went through
yes,
to have to go to those type of facilities. And
hmm,
thank God that there are unbelievable people that
yeah,
are in that profession, and that's what my podcast is about: meeting those people and what they do. And the two ladies that they have set me up with that on the PT side of things, both of their dads had passed away from
oh,
strokes, and so
oh,
they have taken a special interest in me,
yeah,
and just have been so encouraging and motivating
yeah,
because they know what their dad went through, and so man,
yeah.
they're just
What's
great people.
that? I think her name is the therapist, the very tall girl.
Yeah, Megan.
Yeah, Megan. Yes, I
Yes,
remember her because of her tattoo. She has
yes,
Zachariah, I believe, is 3:16, and I've
yeah,
never heard that Bible verse. And I came and did some research, and I'm like, wow! And she recited for me, and she told me that that was her life Bible verse. And
awesome.
so she made a dent in my life as well, because I
Yeah,
saw her, how dedicated she was to her patients and
she
everything. So
is.
tell her I say hi, please. Let me see her.
I
Let
sure
me see
will. Yeah, I love them all. They're just
her.
great people. But
Amazing,
thank you
amazing.
so much for letting me be on your show, and you do such a great job. So
Thank you.
thank you so much for the invite.
Thank you, and thank you, friends. We'll see you next Thursday. I'm gonna have a book author as a guest, so don't forget to check it out. Okay. We'll
Awesome.
see you next time. Bye bye.
Take care.